In this film, Bajoy, artistic director for the Avilion Cameo Theater in Second Life, discusses possible theatrical uses for the SymMod, as previously described by Marley, while again using the actors from the first film and scenes from Romeo and Juliet.
This film applies the SymMod technique to the development of characters in a play. Actors will demonstrate several different positions and approaches. The first shows how the SymMod can be used in exploring the essence of a character. That means his or her underlying nature. The characters chosen for this demonstration are Romeo, Juliet, and Juliet's nurse from Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet. For our first demonstration, our actors have created SymMods that they think capture the essence of their characters, or the self of the character. Each of them now will share with you what they believe the essence of their character is with reference to the SymMod. Juliet will be first, then her nurse, then Romeo. Juliet, please.
I am Juliet. I am a satin object that glows with my youth. I am divided between my love for Romeo and the love for my nurse, and I show my division by this top sphere of my essence being divided, and you can see inside.
Now her nurse.
I am Juliet's nurse. As her nurse, I've raised her from a baby, been her primary caregiver, and I'm passionate about her well-being. I have strong maternal feelings for her, as symbolized by the red heart-like shape in my middle. The blue color of the SymMod stands for loyalty. As you can see, it's a very dark blue, symbolizing the depth of my loyalty to both Juliet and her family.
And now Romeo.
I am Romeo. I've recently suffered serious rejection in love and have come from a deep darkness, it's represented by the purple here, to the extreme highs of a new love and infatuation with Juliet, symbolized by the yellow. These relationships have caused some wedges to be driven in between me and my family and my friends, and has kind of split how I feel about things in general.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to a demonstration of another kind, and this involves focusing on the self of the characters in relation to others. This involves moving the SymMods to show their relationship to each of the other characters within a scene. The scene is Act 2, Scene 2 of Romeo and Juliet, or the balcony scene as you may know it. I'm going to be indicating different parts of the scene while the actors move their SymMods to show what they think the relationships are at each point. They will explain to you their reasoning for each move. Now, I'll read the scene and we'll see what happens with the SymMods. The first scene is Juliet on the balcony. She declares her love for Romeo and is overheard by him in the garden. Here are the lines. O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name. Or, if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. Could you please show the relationship of the characters at this point using your SymMods? Move them now, please. I'm going to ask the characters now to explain their emotional states, their feelings, and their distance, why they have moved their SymMods closer or further away. Let's start with you, Juliet.
I moved my I have moved between my nurse and Romeo, but I'm still closer to my nurse because I know that she loves me. I have longing for Romeo, so I have moved closer to him, but I don't know what his feelings are for me exactly. So I stay close to my nurse where I know I am safe.
And what does the nurse say about her placement?
Well, I have moved closer to Juliet because I'm protective of her and very concerned for her emotional welfare right now. I know that she's still growing into maturity, so I'm unsure of her ability to cope with this situation. And I'm definitely unsure about young Romeo's intentions. So I have moved close to her should she need me.
Great. Romeo.
I'm moving closer to Juliet as I want to get closer to my new love, but I'm still a little bit reserved from recent experience and not trying to get too close too quickly.
Fine. Now we're going to move on to another part of the scene. This is where Romeo actually scales the balcony and becomes known to Juliet as a Montague of the rival family. Juliet says, "Art thou not Romeo and a Montague?" And Romeo responds, "Neither, fair maid, if either thee dislike." Would you please move your SymMods now to show the relationship between the characters? And we're talking here about psychological relationship. Juliet, could you please explain? Are we all set?
I have moved closer to Romeo, but he's a little bit too close to me, so I want to be behind my nurse now that I know that he is of a rival family. Since I am young, I'm afraid of him a little bit, and his passion for me. I'm still curious, but I'm still hiding behind my nurse.
Great. Now what does the nurse have to say about this?
Well, I've moved between Romeo and Juliet because my level of concern is rising. I'm now aware that Juliet seems flattered by this young man's attentions, but I feel she may not be able to respond appropriately. I'm also keenly aware of her family's plans for her regarding marriage. I remain loyal to both her and her family, and so I stand ready to intervene if necessary.
Romeo.
I'm definitely getting closer to Juliet and disregarding more and more of the hesitation that I felt earlier. Unfortunately, this also brings me closer to the nurse. In this case, that's really not relevant to the situation. It's only Juliet that's on my mind.
Fine. All right, one last section. This is the section of the play where the nurse interrupts Romeo and Juliet on the balcony by calling from within. So, show the relationship now of the characters psychologically. Okay, Juliet.
I am very close to Romeo now and am ready to go forward with our relationship, so I've moved extremely close to him.
The nurse.
I have moved apart from Juliet and Romeo despite seeing them getting close together. And that's because I have recognized that I must trust my teachings and Juliet's learning and her ability to handle this situation. However, I'm still fairly close to both of them so that I can see what's happening, hear what's happening, and still stand ready to intervene if necessary.
And Romeo.
I am still close to my new love and throwing all caution to the wind, staying right here.
Could I just reinforce then what we were trying to achieve with this exercise? We're looking at basically the SymMods, and we're applying a general idea of the sociogram to it, that being a visualization of a relationship in order to explore the characters of Romeo, Juliet, and the nurse in more depth. So now we're going to turn to our third demonstration, and this involves bringing in the SymMods that you saw earlier for the emotional states. So I'm going to ask our actors to now remove these SymMods and bring in their emotional SymMods that they created earlier. So we'll let them get set up for a minute while I explain what we're going to do now. If you remember from watching the earlier film, we had 3 emotional states: anger, happiness, and confusion. Now what we're going to be doing in this section is taking the end of Act 2, Scene 2, where the nurse is persistently calling, daylight is breaking, Romeo must leave or be discovered. He leaves, promising to send word as he climbs down the balcony. So that is our situation. And we're going to use the SymMods now to explore each of the characters' emotional states at this point in the play. So Romeo will be expressing anger, Juliet, happiness, and the nurse, confusion. They're going to be expressing these emotions in the first person with feeling. So we'll start with Juliet.
I am so happy. I am young. I am beautiful. I'm at the prime of my life. I'm in love. Everything around me is glowing. I feel joyful and filled with hope and happiness and excitement.
And the nurse?
I am so confused right now. And this is demonstrated by the various shapes and colors of the SymMod and the fact that nothing is connected. I'm confused because I'm torn between my duty and my desire to protect Juliet from anything that might harm her, and the realization that she is maturing into a young woman, becoming capable of making decisions for herself. And so I'm very confused about what actions, if any, I should take at this point.
And could you share with us how that's reflected in your SymMod?
Yes, as I stated before, the use of various colors and shapes and the fact that they're not connected to each other demonstrates the variety of feelings I have coursing through me, a state of confusion where I just do not feel solid in my thoughts right now.
Thank you. Good. Lane, who is Romeo?
I'm fed up with this. I've had enough of it. I have to leave my love because it's morning, because we have to hide our love because of our families. This is just a ridiculous situation, and living under the cover of darkness and then despising the light that comes in a new day is just absurd.
And could you share with us how that's reflected in your SymMod?
The darkness around the outside and the anger that becomes as you get closer to the center, the hotter, the heat. It's just raw anger on the inside and trying to hide the day because I want the night because I can be with my love, Juliet.
Thank you. Now, within a play, a character doesn't always have the same emotional states throughout. And for this reason now, we are going to have the actors swap. They're going to stand behind different emotional states. And we're going to talk about the same scene, but see how having a different emotional state can give a slightly different interpretation to the character. So this time I'm going to ask Romeo, please, to stand behind happiness. Juliet comes and stands behind confusion, and the nurse behind anger. And we're going to repeat the exercise, but now we'd like to use these emotions. You've heard how the SymMods represent them already. So let's start with Juliet, please, and she's now terribly confused.
I am so confused about the feelings that I'm having towards Romeo. I don't know if I should upset my family, if I should upset my nurse. I've never felt these kinds of feelings before, so I'm not sure if what I'm feeling is correct, if this is how a young woman is supposed to feel. I just don't know what I'm supposed to do, if I'm supposed to forsake my love and carry on for my family's sake and my nurse, or follow my heart.
The nurse, who is now feeling very angry.
Yes, indeed. And I'm angry, first of all, of the position this puts me in. I value my position in Juliet's household. I value her love for me, and I am somewhat also angry at her for not seeking what I think is enough of my counsel and for potentially leaving me. I'm also angry at Romeo, this young upstart who's appeared, who seems to be trying to take Juliet away from me and possibly interfering with her family's desires.
And Romeo.
Oh, it's the dawn of a new day. Having just spent the night with my love, my new love, it's so energizing. It's so good to have this feeling again and to know that I have found my future. I've found the one I will spend the rest of my life with.
So in review, what we've done with this exercise is actually swap around the emotional states the actors have in order to gain new insight into characters in terms of a range of emotions. So we're going to do one last demonstration for you, and this one involves using a technique called hot seating. And what that actually is putting one of the characters on the spot and having the other two question them. Now, we're going to use Lane as our person in the hot seat. And so if you come out in front here for us, Lane, just you walk a bit forward. And we're going to have Kat and Pip, our actresses, come forward. And Pip is going to then, and Kat in character, as the Juliet and the nurse, question Romeo, who now, at this point, has swapped to confused. So he's in the confused state. And he'll state that, and then they'll question him from their character's point of view about his emotional state. So would you just start out with your general statement, please, Lane, as Romeo?
I don't know what's up. I don't know what's going on. I mean, 1 minute I'm at the top of the world. The next minute I am ready to just die. It's so back and forth, like extreme to extreme in an instant. And I don't know how to control that. I don't know what's happening to me.
Okay, and now the others are going to question him. So this becomes a bit of a role play. So over to you.
So, what are you confused about, Romeo? Are you confused about your love for me?
No, not at all. I am confused about what that means. I am confused about what that means to my relationships, to my family, to your family, I've loathed.
Wait a minute. Who are you, you young upstart, to come in here and interfere with the family?
I'm not intending to interfere with the family. The family is interfering with me. I am here for Juliet.
And what exactly are your intentions?
My intentions are to spend the rest of my life with her.
So, you're not confused about your feelings towards me, but you are confused about your feelings towards my family that I love.
Your family and my family to whom I am very loyal.
Then why conduct this relationship secretly? If you really want to make Juliet part of your life, don't you think you should go to the family?
Oh, I can see exactly where that's going to lead. There will be conflict like you won't believe. This is not going to end well. The families will not allow for it. So we have to hide that, at least and for now, until we can make our plan to escape.
Thank you so much. That gives us some good insight into how that could work. So I'm hoping that you're going to see from what we've done with the demonstration with this film, how we started out creating a SymMod that created the essence of the character and let them explore from an actor's point of view that. And then we moved on to relationships and how the SymMods could be very useful in helping establish relationships among characters and show what those interactions are. And finally, then, we moved on to looking at the emotional states of the characters, and the SymMods helped us to dig more deeply there, and also to swap emotional states to give some insight into the range of emotions and emotional states that an actor might need to use within a play for their character. I'd like to thank the actors today. I'd like to thank Pip and Kat and Lane for contributing to this film. But now, before we go, I'd like to ask them to share some thoughts about the SymMod themselves and how this approach is and how effective they think it might be in a theatrical situation. So could I start with you, Pip? What have been your insights that you've gained from using the SymMod technique?
I really liked the techniques because it helped me understand my relationship in regards to the other actors. It gave me insight into how the nurse might be feeling. It gave me insight into Romeo. It took me out of my own character and out of my own head and helped me to pull their feelings in, which I think would make me a better actress if I understand how I relate to others.
Thank you. Kat?
I think understanding the state of mind of their own character role, just to pick up from what Pippa was saying, at any given moment can help an actor make the best use also of things like gestures, facial expressions if they're available, and individual positioning on the stage. And as both an actor and a director, that physical positioning on the stage convey to the audience the relationship between the characters. So if we go back, for example, to the movements between the nurse, Juliet, and Romeo in terms of positions, we saw that as the nurse got increasingly concerned, she moved closer and closer to Juliet and then in between her and Romeo. And I think using the position on the stage to convey the emotional state of the characters and their relation to each other is a very important tool.
Thank you, Kat. And now you, Lane.
I think for me, part of what this helps me do is as both of them have said, kind of get out of your own head, get out of your body. For me, having to express something that I'm thinking about verbally changes, the part of the brain that processes it, and suddenly you have a different perspective just by the act of having to explain it. It's something I use in other areas too, just to force yourself to look at something differently, and possibly even in an unusual way. And that's what these SymMods help represent, is a completely foreign, at least on first examination, a foreign way of looking at what you're talking about, what you're thinking about.
Good. Thank you all very much for your participation today. And we'd also like to thank you for being here for this presentation.